Alright, let's cut right to the chase. Your Dungeons & Dragons campaign is built on a lie. It feels familiar. It feels comfortable. It feels like the default, but it's not. You're actually starting your story at a very specific, very loaded moment in a much bigger cycle. And because you don't realize that, you're kneecapping the kinds of stories you can even tell.
I mean, think about it, right? Why does it seem like every campaign kicks off in a world that's littered with ancient ruins and forgotten magic? Why is the gameplay loop always about crawling into some dusty tomb to yank out a magic sword? Here's the answer. Plain and simple. It's because you are starting your campaign in the Middle Dark Age. And that is not some neutral blank slate setting. No, it's a world that exists long after a catastrophic collapse, a world surrounded by the broken gears of systems nobody really understands anymore. And that one choice, whether you make it on purpose or not, dictates everything that follows. To really get why, we have to take a quick detour out of fantasy and into actual history. And welcome to the Dungeon Master's Apprentice. This channel is about RPG design, consequences, and why games actually work at the table. So let's talk about the Bronze Age versus the Iron Age. Now, we have this idea that iron is just better than bronze, but that's not really true. Early iron was actually kind of garbage compared to well-made bronze. The thing about bronze, its secret weapon, was also its greatest weakness. You need tin and you need copper, and those two things are almost never found in the same place. So to make bronze, you needed this massive, complicated, and incredibly fragile international trade network. Iron, on the other hand, that stuff is everywhere. It's decentralized, it's local, it's resilient. And this is the whole point, the key takeaway. Bronze didn't fail because it was a bad material. It failed because the system, the infrastructure required to make it, fell apart. Iron didn't win because it was stronger. It won because it could exist and function in a broken world. Now hang on to that idea. Let's take that exact historical pattern and apply it to magic in your fantasy world. You can map it almost one-to-one. You start in a primal age, right? Magic is chaotic, it's personal. Then maybe you get a Fey age, magic that's powerful but weird, alien. The real game changer, though, is the Druidic age. This is what magic becomes a system. It's built on ley lines, celestial cycles, big interconnected stuff. This is magic's Bronze Age. And just like bronze, its biggest strength, the system is also its fatal flaw. So after the collapse, what do you get? You get the Rune Age, magic's Iron Age. It's fragmented, it's local, but damn is it resilient. And out of that, a new civilization clawed its way into existence. And that civilization is the magicocracy. The magiocracy, a civilization ruled by mages. This is your magical Roman Empire. This is a world where magic isn't just some tool you use to throw a fireball. No, magic is the infrastructure. It's the communication network. It's the aqueducts. It's the highways. It's the national defense grid. The whole thing is built on the absolute assumption that the magical systems will just always work. And for a good long while they do. But the fall of the magiocracy happens exactly like the fall of Rome. It's not one battle. It's a slow, cascading failure. The ley networks that power everything start to fray. The grand rituals that have to be perfectly synchronized fall apart. The magical scrying pools go dark. And all of a sudden, those so-called barbarians out on the fringe, the ones using a messy, ugly mix of rune magic and old pacts with spirits, they're not weaker anymore. They're just more adaptable. Their magic doesn't need the grand, fragile system to function. And when that system shatters, they don't shatter with it. Which brings us to a question that, let's be real, most D&D campaigns just completely sidestep. What is magic in your world? Is it really just a list of spells in a book that a wizard can cast a few times a day no matter what? Or is it something tied to the world itself? Is it something that can break? So here it is. This is the whole argument in a nutshell. Magic is not power, it's infrastructure. And infrastructure can fail. The second you accept that single idea, the entire foundation of your campaign shifts, because it reveals the lie that most of us have been building our games on. Think about the basic assumptions we all make. 1. Magic always works just like it says in the player's handbook. 2. Magic is a personal skill, totally disconnected from the world around the caster. And 3. That, other than setting your friends on fire by accident, magic is fundamentally predictable and safe. In a world where the magical infrastructure is collapsing, all three of those are dead wrong.
Okay, so this brings us to the useful part, the tool you can actually use. Don't just think of your world as being in a dark age. Think of it as a spectrum. If you start your campaign in the early Dark Age, the collapse is happening right now. The game you're playing isn't an adventure, it's a horror story about survival while the world literally falls apart. But if you start in the late Dark Age, the game becomes a political thriller about the responsibility of rediscovery. Are you sure you want to try and turn those ancient broken systems back on?
If you want more personal thoughts on RPG design and consequences, especially the ideas that don't always fit into a video, I write a short newsletter between uploads. There's a link in the description if you want that.
And this is where we all live, the Middle Dark Age. This is what creates that loop you see on the screen. Explore ruins, fight monsters, get treasure, repeat. Look, it's a solid formula for an adventure. It works, but it's a formula. It's a gameplay treadmill, not a living world. And it's a direct consequence of starting your story after all the interesting failures have already happened and been forgotten.
Your choice of age is the single most powerful world-building decision you can make. It's not flavor. It defines the core theme of your entire campaign. Are your players survivors, desperately trying to see the next sunrise? Are they archaeologists, picking through the bones of the past? Or are they rebuilders, burdened with deciding the future? By picking a spot on that timeline on purpose, you stop running the default adventure and start telling a real story.
And here is the beautiful, terrifying irony in all of this. The Druids, who built the ley lines, were sure their system would last forever. The magiocracy was absolutely certain that their arcane science was perfect and infallible. Hell, even your players in a late Dark Age game, piecing together forgotten rituals, they're gonna think they can control it, that they can get it right this time. But every age is arrogant. Every system has a breaking point.
So the big idea, the one thing you should walk away with, is this. Magic doesn't disappear when the world breaks. The complex, fragile, delicate system that makes it reliable, that makes it predictable, and most importantly, that makes it safe, that's what disappears. And what it leaves behind is wild, dangerous, and a hell of a lot more interesting to play with.
Until next time, adventure on, if you don't die.